Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Closing Bell on the Stock Movers Report. The companies making moves at the close of U.S. trading with Carol Massar, Tim Stenovec, Romaine Bostick, and Katie Greifeld.
All right, let's go to some of the individual gainers, if I may. And it's Fix, F-I-X is the ticker, Comfort Systems, number one gainer in the S&P 500, hitting an all-time high today, at least intraday. That stock up about 6.5% here in the session. It provides heating, ventilation, air conditioning system, installation, all that good stuff. Firm reported revenue for the fourth quarter that beat the average analyst estimate. Keep in mind, this is a stock that has been on a tear this year. It's up about 60%. So some more momentum to the upside in today's trade. Flip it on over to General Electric, finishing just off its best levels of the session. It too hit an all-time high in the session today, finishing the day with a gain of about 2.5%. Morgan Stanley initiating with a recommendation of overweight, citing the engine manufacturer's durable services growth, strong pricing power, and pristine balance sheet. The analyst there says Wall Street underestimates, long-term free cash flow with further upside from earnings revisions and multiple expansion. They set a price target of $425 a share, stock closing at $343 and change. So some upside certainly on that one. Stock is up about 11% year to date. And then the number one gainer in the NASDAQ 100, we're talking about Alphabet, up about 4% here. And this one of the things that kind of stood out for me was a Wall Street Journal story that says that Google is exploring new ways to expand the market for its AI chips to better compete with NVIDIA. So the company increasing its financial support to a network of data center partners, including a potential $100 million investment in cloud computing startup FluidStack. But I think it's interesting as we get ready for NVIDIA's results.
Yeah, right? NVIDIA results was that next Wednesday, right? The 25th.
So. Yeah.
We'll have full coverage right on here on the close.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before then, let's take a look at the decliners. Blue Owl shares down 4%, down 10.4% on the week. Now, on Thursday, the alternative asset manager restricted withdrawals from one of its retail-focused private credit funds. So that alone sparking some fears here about just how much liquidity there is in this asset class. Of course, there's been a lot of scrutiny in recent weeks on private credit. Bloomberg also reporting last night that Blue Owl did find 4 buyers for a $1.4 billion portfolio of loans to help pay out investors. But the decline, the trade today really reflecting those broader fears that investors are having about illiquidity in private credit and potential losses. I do want to go to Walmart, though. We were talking just a few minutes ago about how a lot of these commerce, consumer-focused companies not moving much on the tariff news. I think Walmart is a good example. The stock in the red, but only down 1.5%. They did cut, they got a recommendation cut over at HSBC. The analysts there cutting the retailer to hold and saying that the company's fourth quarter results the other day were solid, but the outlook for 2026 is surprisingly weak given solid trends. Nevertheless, though, it wasn't a big move downward in Walmart, but keeping an eye on that. And then finally, CoreWeave shares down 8%. This stock did have its biggest intraday drop at one point, though, since November. It was down about 12%. Business Insider reporting that Blue Owl, yes, the same Blue Owl from just a minute ago, was unable to secure financing for a $4 billion data center project that will be occupied by CoreWeave. Yeah. So this speaks to a lot of the fears in the market about there's a lot of credit funding these data centers to power AI. Is this actually going to create real revenue here, or is it going to lead to losses? Yeah,
and just an honorable mention, too. I just want to point out the drop that we saw in cybersecurity stocks today, including some of the names like Zscaler, Cloudflare, CrowdStrike, down about 8% here on the back of that release of this new Anthropic tool, apparently related to security features in its Claude AI model. We do need to check yields just real quickly here. Of course, higher on the day and higher on the week, the entire curve shifting up here. Your 2-year yield up about 2 basis points. Keep an eye on that, 3.5%, as we're just about 4 weeks away from the next Fed decision.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating that you went there, and I think it's important because I think going into Friday, we all thought we were going to be talking about the inflation print and the economic data this morning, the hot inflation print, weaker growth, but it certainly shifted to that U.S. Supreme Court ruling against the president's, what is a key part of his platform. I guess at this point, Katie, it now goes to what comes next from the president, the workaround that maybe he gets to do so that he can continue to impose tariffs. But I guess we have to wait and see here.
Right, yeah. A conversation that Romaine and I have been having on the close is what this means for the 2026 midterms. It's going to be really interesting. There was a great column from our own Sean Donnan about basically that this is secretly a gift to Trump. I don't know if many others would go as far, but he does point out that you take a look at the polling. A lot of the Americans polled weren't approving of how he was handling the economy. So from that sense, if he does have to retool, if this does help in terms of some of the affordability measures, that maybe that will be reflected in November.
Well, I am curious how it's going to be reflected in a State of the Union speech, like how this gets spun, because when I saw the press conference, I thought we were going to get more of that pitch, although, it was more just emotion and grievance. But obviously he's got some time to refine that message, a message that presumably will actually be written by a speechwriter.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.